I'm Melissa Ferrer-Smith from Forward Thinking Leverage Solutions. Welcome to Tea Time with Missy. I am so happy to introduce our special guest, Jennifer Prospero. She is the CFO for Staffmark Group. Jennifer leads change leadership, business development, and corporate agility with an eye on accounting, finance, treasury, and tax, integrity, process improvement, and compliance. She also has a people focus and welcomes and incorporates broad-based team perspective and innovation into creation of cross-functional solutions. With a broad scope of assessing organizations, she supports integration of team roles to drive success. She also has a specialty in mergers and acquisition, evaluation, and integration, leveraging best practices and team strengths of each organization to achieve greater success and profitability. Jennifer, welcome. How are you during these times?
Thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here. How am I? Gosh,
it's crazy these times, right?
It is. What a loaded question, right? Actually, I think good. I think right now, this, as crazy as it's not very often that we get an opportunity to have something happen that is where the waters are so uncharted. And so it is, for me, although busy and at times stressful, it's been good. It's been an opportunity to kind of reinvent the way I'm looking at things. And so as crazy as it sounds, there have been some real positives, and so it's pretty good through all of this.
That's great, because we're going to pick on your brain, Jennifer, to understand your reinvent. Thank you. You know, we want to take your expertise, take some learning, and offer that up to businesses out there. And what are you doing in the world of finance? But, you know, our topic for today is about leading finances in an evolving company in an ever-changing world. So let me pick your brain on a couple of questions here. During our pre-discussion, you made an interesting comment about you managing the money and supporting your teams in selling the business and supporting them to be successful. So tell us a little bit about your role as CFO for Staffmark and how you see the purpose of a finance leader.
Sure. Yeah, I think Melissa, when we spoke, I probably said that I just count what everybody else sells. Excuse me. I just count what everybody else sells. And although everybody does sell, my primary role is not to be on those front lines selling to our clients and working with our clients and our talent. So for me, it's my role and role of my teams, as I see it, is to support and to help so that those who are on those front lines and working with our clients and working with our talent, that those folks have the support they need, the tools they need to be able to do their job to the best of their ability and to really grow the company. So I count, as if I don't help them, then I don't have as much to count. So it's about a team working together and finding a way to be better than we were yesterday.
You put that so humbly, with all the responsibility that you have, but I understand. And, a number of people refer to the impact of this pandemic like a recession. What is your opinion of that?
Yeah, this isn't, it's absolutely behaving differently than a recession. I think we're going to have some after effects that look like a recession, but a recession, you kind of see it coming a little bit. Yes. You plan for it. You start to see a decline. And although it may be a little more rapid, nothing like what we saw. A little bit of a slowdown was coming in the first quarter a little bit, but we fell off the planet when we hit about mid-March. And as the shelter-in-place rules put in place and our offices were closed, and we had our folks trying to figure out how do we do what we do remotely. And so in a week's time, in a day's time, we were seeing cancellations from our clients and different things, unlike anything that we've seen before, just because everyone was complying with the regulations of their individual states or cities or localities. So for us, this pandemic doesn't look anything like a recession. Now, coming back out of it, again, still looks a little bit different, because all of those folks where the businesses were closed, and now they're opening again, but they're opening at different paces across the country. And so it's going to behave like a recession. It's going to, I think it's bouncing us into a recession, obviously, but as far as what the recovery looks like, I think that is as unpredictable, I think, as what we saw going into the pandemic. So it really is, it's uncharted waters.
It is indeed. I'm intrigued. When we finished our conversation, I'm like, wow, Jennifer is such a people person, and how does she put it all together with managing the finances? But just intrigued in how you operate as a CFO. You have a people spirit, while other finance leaders are kind of looking at the finances from a compliance standpoint. They're cutting costs, they're cutting headcount. How do you manage the finances of a business while thinking of your people within the organization?
Well, don't get me wrong. The managing the compliance and the costs and the results is obviously integral to everything I do. But similarly to the fact that our teams support our sales teams, what we do is focused instead on our people, and especially in staffing, right? We are in a people business. We are trying to match people with jobs and clients with talent, and that is about the people. And if we take care of the people, then that will drive the business, and the business will drive the results. If we try it in reverse, then we just won't be as successful. I have found historically that we're not as successful if we're focusing on that at the expense of our people. So you still have to do the things, right, to adjust the company, to right size it for the costs and the volumes. But you've got to make sure that you're driving the business based on what's right for the business and what's right for the people, and because they're the ones that's what we do. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm. In our discussion, you had mentioned that businesses are more successful if they are cross-functional.
All right.
Can you elaborate on that?
I think that when you're looking at a business and you're looking at it in silos, right? You've got your finance function, you have your marketing function, you have your sales function, operations over here, human resources right in the middle, making sure that everybody's doing what they ought to, right? But if we don't talk, we don't get the difference in perspectives, and we're each drawn to our different areas of focus and expertise, based on who we are, but also based on the way we view the world. And by working together, we get that variation in perspective that gives us the different points of view, and we'll come up with things that we wouldn't have come up with before, and we won't miss things that we otherwise might if we're only focused on our own point of view. So working together as that cross-functional team, and coming up with ideas and generating and brainstorming, but then executing as well, because there are different things that I'm going to think about from a finance perspective than what our HR team is going to come up with, or our operations and our field teams are going to think of. Together, we do better. And it's by focusing on that variation of perspective that we find more success and ultimately more profitability.
Mm-hmm. Great examples, particularly in, working together and getting perspective, understanding what the other businesses are doing and welcoming those ideas. What are the atypical things that CFOs are closely measuring in a business, but how does that change? How do you look at it differently from your angle?
Sure. I think right now it's a really good example, right? We talked about, is it pandemic, is it recession, but it's certainly not stable times. And in stable times, status quo, you're focusing on your income statement, you're focusing on growing that income statement, you're just everything kind of moves along predictably. And that's, you want to get bigger, you want to earn more, and you always want to earn more, right? I mean, that's why we're in the business, right? But at the same time, you get into a time like this and a pandemic, a recession, and you shift from looking at your income statement to looking much more at your balance sheet and your cash flow statement. You're looking at how are you doing from a cash generation perspective? What are your exposures on your cash? You're making sure that you have what you need in the way of liquidity and borrowing. And you're looking at you're looking at the legislation that's coming out. How can we maximize that? Are there areas that we can defer payments? Are there, how can we make the most of that bank account, right? And have as much cash as possible. But the thing that becomes even more unique with this pandemic, I think, is the focus on relationships and partners. And so you're looking at that balance sheet, but you're also looking, how do you strengthen it? It's that balance sheet represents, that's your vendor partners, that's your banker, that's your clients, it's your talent. And those underlying drivers that make up those numbers on the balance sheet, right? How do you take care of those? But how do you make sure those relationships are strong? How do you make sure that up and down your supply chain, that your clients and your vendor partners are as strong as you are and as dedicated to the same growth and drive, and making sure that those relationships are strong. So I think that becomes even more critical because everyone's watching those same things. And if we push on one another without trying to find ways that we can all get better, then it becomes more difficult. So I think it's that combination where it's not just we're not just looking internally. I think you're looking more externally and up and down the supply chain right now, more so than we would in normal, predictable times.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, in our last question, and giving advice to other leaders, CFOs, and organizations out there, how can CEOs, CFOs partner, engage their leadership team, and look at their organization differently now and into the future? Some of the businesses are having a different business model. Sometimes they're thriving in another part of the business where another part they've had to reduce. So what's your advice to look at business differently and manage finances?
I think that right now it's the cross-functional management, the communication becomes even more critical because things are changing daily. They're changing daily, they're changing weekly. And so whereas before the horizon was longer, further away, you've got to focus, I think, right now on what's right now. Everything is changing. I mean, you said it at the top of our discussion, right? In an ever-changing world. And that's exactly what's happening. And for a company that is in any location, but especially for those who are in multiple jurisdictions, knowing what all of those rules are, knowing how they can comply and how they can grow through that is going to be really important, staying plugged into that, because you're watching the short term. At the same time, you're trying to figure out what is this new long term going to look like, because it likely isn't going to look the way it looked 6 months ago. Correct. So the success of how a business defined itself and how we operated is going to change, and it already has. Right? There are different ways that we're looking at it. We may be looking at it and saying, okay, we did more with remote work, so maybe we should continue doing remote work in all or in partial. And how does that affect our brick and mortar? But we don't know what that looks like. What are our clients going to do? Because what we do needs to also work with the partnerships that we have with our clients and with our talent, so that we're still able to support those groups. So that long-term look is way up in the air right now. Nobody knows. So we're trying to look long-term, and I think that's important. I think that the companies need to look at what went well, right? These past 3 to 4 months have looked very different, and we've all operated very differently, but some things got better. Communication got better. Our use of technology, video conferencing, right? You know, we may not have had this conversation this way, you know,
Right.
6 months ago. So it's leveraging those technologies and the increase in communication and engagement that we had then. It, you know, my advice would be make sure we don't lose those. Make sure that the things that worked well, that you take them with you into that new strategy that you're building,
Mm-hmm.
and parlay that into more success. Because doing things the way we've always done it probably isn't going to be the best path to success for a while, because everything's going to be different. We don't know what it's going to be, but it's trying to build that flexibility into long-term planning. And that's a bit of an oxymoron all in itself. So
I love
that
your
answer your question?
No, you
What?
did. Absolutely. Love your advice. And I think, organizations need to be resilient. They need to flex. You raised some great points on people first. They're the ones who drive the business. They're the ones who are touching the customer. And so really understanding their insights, bringing different perspectives from the business. I always say the answers are there in your organizations. Just ask the people.
Right.
And working together, as you mentioned, now this impact of the pandemic has kind of forced businesses to work more closely together, and even beyond the organization, right? Going out into the marketplace and using other resources for support. So there are some pluses that have come from this. It's been great talking to you. Anything that I missed asking that you want to share out there?
Oh, I think the key thing for folks is as you said, it's about resilience. It's about positivity. It's about finding that way to make ourselves better, and to not let what's happened in this last 3 or 4 months be something that drags your business down, but instead to look at it as an opportunity to really buoy your business and drive it forward. This is an opportunity. We don't get this opportunity very often, to be able to transform our businesses and completely reinvent ourselves. And so it's a unique opportunity. It's pretty exciting.
It is.
And I wish everyone luck as they're moving forward, and as they're creatively coming up with new solutions for how we manage our businesses, how we drive them forward, and how we improve our profitability through these difficult times.
Yes. Thank you, Jennifer. We will have this video posted for our viewers. Please feel free to pose your questions for me with Forward Thinking Leverage Solutions. My role has to do with helping businesses design their strategies and goals, and it could be as simple as process and steps during this time. The key is to bring out the best of the organization and the unique strengths of a business. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Melissa. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you today.
Thank you, viewers. Stay safe, be well.